Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Secret Sunday session episode today. Now, we have taken a little bit of a break, so welcome back to everyone. Fortunately, one of us went on a holiday and then decided to get sick. That was me, of course. So now we're going to jump back into our podcast once again and welcome Christina in today, because today we're going to be talking a lot about body image and also food freedom and what that looks like for people that may be struggling with an eating disorder, and some of us that aren't, that just go about our everyday life but still have these struggles that do pop up in our lives every now and then. But I'm going to introduce you to our special guest today, which, as I said, is Christina, who is an eating disorder dietitian. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm very excited and passionate about this topic, so I'm looking forward to chatting today.
Amazing. That makes two of us, because once you start in this space and when you work in it, you could go for hours talking about it. You hit a topic and you could just go. And when you find the right people, it's great to connect and really share stories and be able to help other people along the way as well. So I'm also excited. So I do know a little bit about you, but one thing we do love to do on this podcast is, instead of me just talking about you, it's a perfect opportunity for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you are doing, so people know a bit about you. So Christina, what is it that you do and who are you?
Yeah, so my name's Christina. I'm an eating disorder dietitian, and I specialize with helping people to feel normal around food and make peace with their body. So that looks like doing like one-on-one consulting with clients, and then also, I guess, providing that education through Instagram, and also showcasing a lot of my knowledge through that as well. But I come, I guess, from a background of having my own lived-in experience around going through an eating disorder and having my own body image concerns, which I think anybody can relate to, having concerns around food and their body at some sort of stage in their life, given the society that we live in. So that's a bit around my kind of background. As I mentioned, I'm an eating disorder dietitian, so I really specialize in that space. And I guess my practice and the way that I do work with my clients is through that holistic lens of working with the mind and the body, not just, I guess, solely on like the food, but also trying to optimize how we can support our health through mind, body, soul, all those good things.
That's amazing, and it's so needed in this space, honestly. If you don't mind me asking, if we have a look at your journey and unpacking a little bit about your eating disorder, do you remember the moments when you realized that you were going through your eating disorder and what that actually looked like for you?
Yeah. So I guess if we kind of bring it back to, I guess, growing up and things like that, like I kind of look back on my childhood and I think like I definitely had concerns around my body, but it was nothing that I was actually fully aware of at that time. I just thought, what the thoughts around like my body and kind of, trying different random diets and things like that. Like it was all very normalized. So I never even saw, I guess, anything wrong about that. It was probably only until I got to, year 12 and was like finishing school and then started into uni, where I kind of started to realize like, oh, you can use food to, manipulate your body, which is actually like the reason that I got into nutrition, because I was so amazed that, oh, I could now use food to, make my body into this like idolized kind of thing that I had like put on this pedestal, which is actually, I think, very common for people that get into nutrition sometimes, is probably not through, I guess, the most healthiest way. But I guess through that journey, that's when we can learn, I guess, more of those things that are more important for our health rather just the way that we look. But yeah, I kind of started through that as I kind of finished school. I did, the standard 8-week challenges, things like that. Got into like lost a lot of weight doing that. And I should probably say that before we even kind of talk about all of this stuff, is that I recognize my privilege as a white, I guess, idolized kind of in a body, in a very standard body size as well. So I just want to preface that before we get started. But yeah, I guess with anyone though, I've got my own experience through this. But yeah, as I was saying though, I started through like doing these challenges, lost a lot of weight with that. I thought it was an amazing. And then with that, I guess, came the kind of attention from people, also people commenting on like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? Like, give me your secrets. Like this is like such a good thing that you've, lost all this weight in a very unhealthy way. It was a very restrictive kind of practice and things like that. So that was kind of like my journey into it. I think for the first year or two, I didn't even realize I didn't actually think there was a problem going on. I was just like losing all this weight. I did a challenge after a challenge, just kept losing the weight because as most people that have gone through a journey like this, you have this number in your head, you get to that number, but you're like, no, it's not good enough. I need to lose more weight. And it just keeps going and keeps going. And as I kept going, my body image got worse. I was more concerned around food. I wanted to, change more things about my body and everything like that. So that was my journey, I guess, like into it. Through that, I then, I guess, kind of then started to deal with the health effects that you do deal with as you do go through an eating disorder. So I was, I guess, seeking help for those things without, I guess, acknowledging that there was actually an underlying issue kind of going on. And then I guess like through that as well, I would say that I came to a place where I, gained a bit more weight because I realized at one point that I wasn't healthy. I was dealing with all these health impacts, as I said. And then again, I got to a point where I was like, I'm now too skinny and I didn't like the way that I looked. So I was like, okay, now I need to, build some more muscle because I still wasn't happy with my body. So then went through that kind of process, started kind of building that better relationship with food, but it was also just masked by me convincing myself I was, putting on muscle to then make myself, look toned. So kind of, went through that journey. And then other kind of things in my life kind of happened, which then kind of relapsed me back into, I guess, that eating disorder again, which, as I said, initially, I didn't even think there was a eating disorder there or even a problem. And then the second time round, I guess things got worse. I was then going to the doctor for help again with all these other health problems that underlying it all was actually this eating disorder that was manifesting. And then it was only at that point where the doctor was kind of started asking me questions around food and my body and things like that, and kind of got me to start to, ponder around oh, maybe there is, an issue kind of here. And then kind of, went away from that and was like, okay, I need to, work at this myself to, try and help myself, put on weight and get better. So I kind of gave myself this time period in my head of okay, I'm going to use this time to, put on weight and start to work on, building that better relationship with food and my body. But during that time, things only got worse because I was, again, doing it alone and I was, trying to get through it myself. Which is one thing, for anyone on their own journey, I think support and reaching out to even friends, loved ones, or health professionals online or doctors or whoever it is so crucial and important. And then, then I guess tried to recover myself, wasn't successful, and then got to a point where I was I actually need help. I had no kind of other option. And then decided to, I guess, kind of fully commit to recovery at that point, even though I would say for a year, I was trying to recover myself, but didn't really get far with that. And then, finally made the decision to commit to recovery, go and seek treatment. It was also at a point where the doctor kind of gave me that option of you either go for an inpatient treatment or you commit to getting consistent treatment in the community, which I guess for me was a bit of a wake up call that I needed of okay, I can't just keep going along the way that I'm going because I'm not helping anyone. I'm not helping myself. And then, committed to recovery. So I guess going to treatment and trying to work through this, which was one of the most scariest things of my life because I guess for me and my own experience, and I know, I guess with eating disorders, there is so many factors that play into them, body image, and I guess the fear of your body changing being a factor for most people. But in saying that, some people might not have that concern depending on what eating disorder they may have. But for me, it was a lot around my body. It was also a massive fear of gaining weight, which I knew that if I committed fully to recovery, that's what would happen. So even when I made that decision, I was still not ready for it. I was so scared. It was, one of the hardest things at the time. I thought it was the hardest thing in my life that I had to decide to this, but looking back for it, I wouldn't change it for the world. Obviously then, went through, I guess, my recovery journey, and saying that it was very up and down with my body image, with food, with recovery. It was a kind of long journey out of that. But yeah, and then I guess even through that, I was kind of at a point where I was like, as soon as I, recover and I'm at a healthy place, I want to help others through this, because I understand what it is like to be in that situation and what it feels like, and all the thoughts that you have around food and your body, and the fear around, giving up control that the eating disorder kind of provides for you, which is where my passion, and I think most people that do come into this space have that, I guess, lived experience, or they know someone close to them. So yeah, I guess that's where my journey is. And then over the years, got credited as an eating disorder dietitian, now working in that space, and very passionate about helping people, find confidence in their body, and also feel normal around food, which, yeah, that's kind of the big story, how I kind of, here where I am at the moment.
That's amazing, and congratulations on that journey, because honestly, like, I know a lot of people out there can really relate to how hard it is, and how hard it is to just choose recovery, let alone go through it. So congratulations on the place where you are today, because that's phenomenal. But in saying all of that, a common thing that we hear with people that are going through an eating disorder is this denial, in the terms that people can just not admit to themselves that they are going through an eating disorder, because it is hard. Sometimes that body dysmorphia steps in and people can't see it. And as you said, when it's so normalized in society to go on a diet and do these challenges, and you're glamorized and you're told when you're losing weight that it's such a good thing for you, how can people step aside from all of that when they're going through an eating disorder and realize that there is a real issue here, and that I shouldn't be in denial, and I somehow have to figure out how I can actually seek help? Because I feel like that is a big barrier at the moment. What we're seeing in treatment is that this denial is taking over, and people are not seeking help because they don't think they have an issue.
Yeah. And I think it's a broader issue of, I think people just don't like asking for help in general. I think any mental health issue, like, there's so much stigma around these things. So I think the first step in actually asking for help for any situation, for anyone, is always going to be very vulnerable, and putting yourself in that position is not, I guess, very comfortable. So it's not something that is normalized in the broad kind of spectrum. Again, when we look at eating disorders, that then heightens things as well, because there is so much, like, stigma around these things as well. So I think broadly, it's asking for help is such a like a challenging thing to do, and it's very vulnerable for anyone to admit that, oh, I'm actually struggling. I think when we talk about like eating disorders and I being in denial, I think that's I don't like love using the word denial, but I would say that, I guess, sometimes you don't realize, I guess, the impact of kind of your relationship with food in your body, or potentially where someone may be at with it, which is what was in my situation. Was I like kind of knew, I was like, okay, like, I've lost a lot of weight, I'm dealing with these health issues, but like, there's not a big issue, because in my head I thought, oh no, people that have eating disorders are this certain, they look this certain way, or they are, whatever it is, which then again is a barrier for people to getting treatment, because they're like, oh, I mean, like, I'm a healthy weight according to the BMI scale, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But like, and so people don't, like, they're like, oh, I don't have a problem, like, I am a healthy weight, my doctor. And as well, I think even with health professionals, like doctors and people, can miss things as well if they don't know what questions to ask, and what things to, I guess, look into, because they might, I guess, look at a person and go, okay, cool, like, you look like you're a normal weight, like, how could you have a problem with food? Or how could you have this issue? Which further then stops people from getting treatment as well. So there's so many factors around this. And I think your first question around like what people can do around it is, I know for me, I was waiting till a point until I felt ready to like take action, until I was at, as I said in my journey, I tried myself for, a few months, but things just got worse. And I think people want to wait till they are like ready to take change, or until they're like, they kind of come to that conclusion like, oh, something is going on. But I think wherever you are along your journey, like if you're having thoughts around like food or like, oh, I shouldn't eat that or I should eat this, or you, I don't know, you have a bad relationship with exercise and feeling the need to, constantly hit your steps and things like that, like wherever you are on your journey with food in your body, if there's any kind of, I guess, negative connotation around that, that's like something to be, I guess, curious about and asking yourself like, oh, why am I, feeling the need to go to the gym 7 days a week or whatever it is, or, why do I feel the need to change my body to, look a certain way? Like even just being curious around that, I think that can help you kind of to come to the conclusion like, okay, maybe I can, look for help and things like that. But I think wherever someone is along on their journey, they are so worthy, and it's so valid to ask for help. And I think the best thing that you can do is, if you do have these concerns around food and your body, the early that you can act and get that support and help, the better it's going to be for yourself, even though, as we said, it is a scary thing, stepping out and taking that step. But the sooner you can do that, no matter where you are on your journey, like everyone's own experience or wherever they are on that journey is valid. Just because, I don't know, you might not look a certain way, it doesn't mean that, there's not an issue going on and things like that. So I think if anyone has concerns around food and their body, they should be kind of being curious about that and, reaching out to support, if it is, talking to a friend or maybe talking to a loved one, or even if you go to like see a psychologist, even like bringing it up with them. I think wherever someone is along on their journey should definitely be reaching out for that support, because it's actually like it. So like I guess when we look at statistics and how many people struggle with this, like it is huge. And I think everyone has experienced this at some point in their life, and everyone's journey and experience with it is valid. And the sooner that you can, take that step, which is, again, it's going to be scary, you're not going to feel ready for it, but the better that, I guess, that can help support like future you and kind of what direction you want to head with that as well.
I think it's really hard as well in the world that we're living in today, when we do talk about a lot of these normalized conversations around dieting and exercising. It can be really confusing for people to understand that fine line of what is classed as, say, an eating disorder and eating disorder behaviors, and what is just normal conversation. Because there is this whole world we're living in where we're comparing our lives to everyone else. And, someone might go a whole day without eating anything, but not have any thoughts around eating disorders or the behaviors associated with that. Whereas someone else would be really fixated and have to eat so much. So it's, I think as well, trying to navigate, as we just mentioned, that fine line between what is, I guess, symptomatically, what is something where people should go and seek help, and what is just normal behaviors of how we actually function as human beings, and also just being part of the culture that we're living in. How do we know that fine line?
Yeah. And I don't think, like, as you just said, there's no like direct answer to this, because it's kind of this conversation of what may be disordered for someone potentially might not be disordered for another person. And there's not a black and white thing of like, I don't know, like there's not a black and white thing of saying like, there's not a black and white thing of saying like all people that, don't eat animal products are like have a disordered eating, like that's disordered, right? It's not black and white. I think what you can ask yourself if someone is like, oh, I don't know, is like, why is the reason you're choosing to do this certain thing? Like, is it because, like, if we go back to the animal-based product, is it because you don't want to, like, I don't know, you've grown up, maybe it's a religion thing that you don't eat animal products. Like, if that's the reason why, and that's, a value of yours, like, if that's the reason, like, again, that's not disordered. But if the reasons for you not eating, animal products because someone online has said that animal products going to make you gain weight, or they're toxic, or I don't know, whatever you find online these days, everything. Like, again, that's where it's like, okay, well, then that's actually potentially going against your own values of, doing the best for your body. You're kind of taking what someone else has said, and doing it because you think that this is going to make your body potentially look a certain way or be a certain way. So it is a fine line, and there's no black and white of like, this is sorted, this is not. But it's also coming back to the intention to why someone's choosing a certain behavior around food and their body or exercise.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, then we look at body image and the concerns that are associated with that, which, eating disorders are classed as an illness, a mental health illness, and body image concerns are not. They're not classed as an illness. So we hear it commonly that a lot of people do experience body image concerns in their lifetime, but what actually are they?
Yeah, I think like if we look at body image just in general and kind of what that means, body image, I guess, is someone's thoughts, feelings, perceptions around their body. And that can be influenced from media, society, their childhood, trauma, lived experiences, like so many different things. When we kind of look at body image concerns, it's like a whole kind of opening a worm of cans. But when we kind of look at, I guess, body image and what are actual body image concerns, I guess it's anything that is, for example, if someone has any, like, again, beliefs around their body needing to change, or they're feeling down about their way they look because, they don't meet up to the society's expectation, or, someone at school told them that they, were, I don't know, didn't fit whatever the mold is, or whatever experience someone has been through. And has that then played a role then with their relationship to their body, where they are now feeling those negative thoughts towards their body? They aren't, going out to enjoy the dinner because they're worried about their body. They're not going on the holiday because, their body doesn't look a certain way and they don't want to go to the beach or whatever it is. If body image concerns are anything that is stopping you from living your life, and also anything that's impacting you like mentally as well, which again, it's that broad spectrum, and there's no like, this is the thing, this is not. But it's kind of like a healthy, I guess, relationship with your body. And I think that's what we can like pull on when we kind of look at these things, is like having a relationship with your body where it is a relationship where you're like, okay, my body is, the way it is, the way it looks. I accept that. It doesn't mean that every day you have to look in the mirror and, love your body, and you have to, say these positive affirmations, which, yes, for some people they're great, but for some people that's actually a real like stretch for them, and that doesn't actually feel authentic to them. But I think coming to a place where it's like, okay, I accept the way that my body is. I'm not going to try and change my body to look a certain way because that's going to, get me X, Y, and Z. But, acknowledging that, but being like, my body isn't going to stop me from moving through this world. My body isn't going to be the thing that is going to hold me back from, pursuing these other things in my life, or, going out for that dinner, things like that. So I think when we can look at body image and I guess what body image concerns are, or even an unhealthy relationship with your body, it's everything that's not, I guess, having that positive relationship with your body.
Yeah, and there is a lot of talk at the moment around body image, and a lot of talk actually around positive body image, when we have a lot more messaging coming out for people to embrace all body shapes and sizes. And while this is very positive, do you think it is actually making a difference on the thin ideal, I guess, that I know I personally grew up with, but on people's body image, or is it actually causing more stress on people?
I think, the body positivity conversation is like a tricky one to navigate, because some people will, like, I don't know, you kind of see the people online that might post, like unfiltered photos of themselves in the light of, body positivity and things like that. Which again, I think there's the conversation around like, is that actually just, I guess, continuing the focus on the body? Because what we're also trying to do, and as I just mentioned before, when you have a healthy relationship with your body, the focus actually isn't fully on your body. It's actually on like, okay, I acknowledge my body, can do these things. It can help me, walk and things like that. And obviously treating your body with respect by, nourishing it and things like that. That's definitely important. But it's also been like, I'm actually a whole person. Like, my body isn't the only thing about me, where the body positivity conversation, it's keeping the main focus on the body, which again, it's kind of, again, it's like a catch-22 of like, yes, we obviously want to, look at our body in a positive light, But there's so much more to life than just our body and just focusing on, you know, our body being the main thing. So I think that's where the body positivity conversation can be a bit like tricky, because it's like we're still just trying to focus on like our bodies in that sense. It's also, I guess, around that conversation of people that potentially promote the body positivity kind of movement as well. It's also like these photos that people might upload and, you know, kind of mold their body into certain ways. It's like, again, that's also curated as well. Like, it's not, I guess, sometimes always authentic. And then it's like, as well, is what they're actually really posting and, you know, celebrating about. Like, I don't know, it's sometimes can be people as well in these ideals, which is then it's tricky to navigate as well, because someone else that might not look like them might go like, how could you, you know, say this is body positive when you're like the thin ideal? So it's, again, a tricky conversation. And it's not something that I guess even like to promote. I guess even with my work with clients, I'm like, the goal isn't to get to a state of body positivity. I never think that's the goal. I think the goal is to get to a place where you can accept your body, as I said, and move through this world knowing that your body is a part of you, but it's not everything. And it's not going to be the thing that, you know, is going to make you, you know, get to certain things. Obviously, we live in a society that praises that thin ideal, and also a fat phobic society, which then plays into things as well. So I also don't want to take away that people living in larger bodies are going to experience discrimination around things, and it is going to be harder to move through this world as well. So I don't want to also take away from that. But yeah, the goal, I don't think, should be body positivity. I think it should be at a more place of just, can we just accept our bodies and understand that there's actually more to us, to life, than just the way we look.
Do you think that's achievable in a digital world?
Moving towards a place of
just being able to accept your body and ignore all the comparisons and ignore all the opinions. I think when we live in such a noisy world, is that actually achievable?
I think it's achievable for people to get to a place of, I guess, like body respect and things like that. When we talk about body image, I think sometimes it can also, like, I should say that it's not this destination point that you get to. It's not like, oh, I need to, you know, hit this body acceptance and I'm fine, I'm good, I'm done. It's actually a journey in life, and it's going to be something that you continue to work and build on as, you know, you move and you get older and things change and things like that. In the society we live in, I don't think we will ever get to a place where, you know, all of that noise around diet culture and everything just completely vanishes. I mean, that would be idealized, but it's not going to happen. So I think that's when we then need to educate, you know, our clients. We need to educate others around like, what can we actually do in our own lives to, you know, make sure that we are kind of setting ourselves up to have, you know, that healthy relationship with our body, which when we just talk about social media, that is going to look like curating your feed. So you're not only following, you know, people that have this thin body size as well, because I think anyone in any situation, like if you're like, even if we talk about ourselves, like if my whole feed was just full with, you know, like the thin idealized people, that's actually just going to naturally like filter into my mind and start to, you know, change my thoughts around my body. So I think it's in those situations we have to be proactive around what can we actually do to foster a healthy relationship with our own body, with like, I don't know, our children's body, like all of those different things. But also acknowledging that body image and I guess healing your body image isn't getting to a place where, you know, you never have a bad thought around your body. You never experience a bad body image day, because like I can say that I can still like some days wake up and I don't love my body. It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm failing or, you know, I'm going backwards on my body image journey. That's actually just life. And it's like acknowledging like, okay, cool, you know, don't feel great today. That's fine. I'm still going to wear what I want to wear. I'm still going to, you know, go and do the things I want to do. Because again, it's like the focus shouldn't be solely on our bodies. It's just one part of us.
Oh, it absolutely is. Unfortunately, as we've spoken about, it becomes the main focus, and it has for unfortunately a long time. I mean, you even look at pre-social media and when the magazines used to come out, and I even remember my mum and talking to my grandma, and when they used to get the latest newspaper that get dropped off, and they'd scroll through and look at all the famous women of the world that had these ideal bodies at the time. You know, they were different shapes and sizes, but it was always chasing something. It was chasing a body that they didn't have, and it was glamorized that this was the ideal of what a woman should be. And that pressure that they even used to discuss about how that made them feel is kind of sad, but in a way it's just become more saturated in the world that we're living in today, because we have these 24-hour cycles, and almost because we have so many different body types now, it's almost so overwhelming to the point where you don't know where you fit and you don't know where your body fits into it. And as we've mentioned, sometimes that takes people down paths of trying to control all this information that they're trying to process and look towards an eating disorder to be able to cope, which is unfortunately sad, but it is the world that we're living in, and we're also seeing it a lot in men as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, so then we look to your practice and what you do and how you support people with eating disorders and body image. What are some tips or even some advice that you offer people in terms of healing their relationship with their body and even food if they're struggling with that as well?
Yeah. And I think in, most cases, I said at the start, the two are going to be connected. If you have that unhealthy relationship with your body, that is going to naturally influence your food choices. Because those things, I guess, filter off each other and stem from each other. When we kind of start doing the work around body image, the first thing and the most important thing, I think, and I guess how I work with my clients, is actually really getting to the bottom of like, what are your body image stories? Like, what have you grown up with? What influences, what does that soundtrack actually look like that goes along in your head? Like, can we really get to the bottom of that and get to the bottom of like, where has this come from? Because I think not only does it provide the person with insight and they can go, oh, okay, it makes sense. I, feel this way about my body because of X, Y, and Z. Or, it makes sense that I don't love my body because of social media and magazines and all the things we just spoke about. I think that's like the perfect place to start with, is kind of understanding for yourself your own individual stories around your body and how we can start to, bring awareness to that, because then from that, we then can look at, okay, now we can take the proactive steps to help to unlearn and relearn and learn those new beliefs around our body. So I think that's always the first place that we kind of want to be starting with. Again, it's then kind of noticing like, what's that soundtrack that is playing in your head every day around your body? What do those thoughts sound like? What things affect, different behaviors that you do have around your body? Because our body image has, I guess, like the four components of, I guess, what we feel, how we think, how we see our bodies, and then the behaviors we take as a result of that. So really trying to understand for the person, what are those different things that influences their body? Because our body image, yes, we talk about these different factors, but our mood is also going to influence our body image. I know how much we, have slept that day, what we see on social media, people's comments, like all these different things are going to influence. So it's really kind of bringing that awareness around that, understanding, I guess, what thoughts come up for the person themselves, because everybody is going to have different, experiences with their body, and then starting to understand and I guess challenge those beliefs and go like, okay, are these things, true, and are they like Bible, or are they just thoughts? Because I guess with food and our relationship with our body, these are just thoughts. And I think in general, like we have so many thoughts per day, doesn't actually mean that they are true. And that's where we can start to understand and, challenge these thoughts and actually start to reframe the thoughts and reassess, the self-talk that kind of goes on in our head throughout the day. From there, once we kind of understand around, challenging the thoughts and coming up, again, it's reframing and actually relearning these new beliefs around our body. And that's where the awareness piece as well comes into play. And then from there, learning to how can we actually look after the body we have at the moment? Like, yes, bringing in like body acceptance and things like that, but also just like, how can we, respect our bodies, because our bodies, are worthy of respect and worthy of nourishment and all of those good things. So how can we actually look at, just respecting our bodies and moving through that? And then also I guess, aligning with what our core values, within like the body image journey. But there's many, I guess, different things that, I guess, the main structure that I kind of work through with my clients, and the different things that I like to touch on. And I think, there's many things like, I guess, body grief and distress and all those different things that do play into it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really critical to mention that this is not an overnight fix as well. I think a lot of people think that with these things that, whether it's body image or eating disorders, or it's a week, or it's sending you to a retreat, or it's a couple of days, taking time to yourself, and all of a sudden you're over all of this. It doesn't work that way. I would imagine you in your practice as well, that you would see your clients for long periods of time, then you're working with them, as you said, throughout their whole journey. And it's not just something that is a band-aid and that you can get over really quickly. It's a process. When we talk about that process, I think it is important to mention to people how long it generally does take. Of course, it's going to be different for everyone. But case by case, what does it generally seem to be like for you when you're working with someone? Do you work with them for a couple of months, a couple of years?
Yeah, it can be completely different, as we said. I think when we look at like body image, that it's definitely a journey, and it's not an overnight fix. People, though, I guess when we start to work together, and as I just mentioned, kind of start going through this process, people will start to, see the changes in how they kind of, relate to their bodies every day. It doesn't mean that they're not going to still, deal with these negative thoughts around their bodies. But as we start to, bring awareness to that over time, you can start to actually see, little changes and notice like, oh, this week, I ate this certain piece of food because, I wanted to, which, is a win. So those things you can start to see like pretty soon as you start to bring awareness to it. But as we said, it's a journey. So you might be going great for, a couple of weeks, and then, I don't know, something in your life might happen that is distressing. And then you find that, the body image thoughts are getting louder and those things are coming up. I think in regards to like implementing these strategies and things like that, again, it takes like 3 months to kind of like, break down all of this stuff, because it's not something that I can sit down in one session and go through all these steps from the start to the finish. Because even as with the first step of just understanding our own body image stories, like that's a whole process that takes time. Even with some clients, I will give them, journaling activities and different resources to kind of go away and ponder on that. And then we catch up, again, the next week and kind of go through, how that's gone. So it is a journey, but I would say 3 months when you're kind of starting to see those changes. Yes, initially you'll see those like immediate changes, but in then saying that, it can take, up to a year or years on for someone to get to a place where they, are feeling like good about themselves, and they don't feel like that these negative thoughts around their bodies is all consuming. And I think even in that process, like something I teach my clients is a lot of skills around how do we actually tolerate like body image distress, because that's real and that's something that people struggle with. And that's like the distress around like, not their body not looking a certain way or grieving their certain body. And I guess when we talk about our relationship with food and even eating disorders, is when that distress comes up, that's when the control kind of mechanism kicks in, and the coping mechanism of like, okay, I'm feeling this way about my body, I'm going to change what I'm eating, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do this thing, whatever it is. That's, I guess, that process. It's like, how can we actually, and I think this is important in, body image work, is like when those distressing thoughts come up, when those negative thoughts around your body come up, what can it actually look like to teach you to, sit in that distress? Obviously, as well, for some people, that level of distress, having I guess like the psychological input as well, is going to be really important. But also like, how can we learn to actually sit with that, and what can it actually look like to move through that without going to these other coping mechanisms that is going to continue that cycle around our body image. So that's where things like body checking and all those things kind of come into play as well. But it's not a black and white answer, but it is a process and it's a journey. And I think it takes time. And I think even on my journey, I was reflecting on this the other day of like, I can say I'm at the best place that I am, that I've ever been with my relationship to my body. But I have no doubt maybe in a couple of years, and as I get older and, more mature and wiser, I'll probably be like at an even better place with my body image, because I think it is that continual journey. And it's not like you get to a place and, that's it done. It's a continual thing as we kind of move through life and different experiences, that we gain more understanding around, and I guess more, self-acceptance, because that's where the acceptance piece comes in as well. It's actually, accepting ourselves for, who we are and who we've been born into this world to be.
Amazing. And like, looking at your journey, what do you think was the one thing that helped you get to the place that you are today?
Yeah, I would think like definitely getting support. I think I'm the biggest advocate for, seeing a psychologist, getting dietetic support in anyone's journey. Obviously I am a dietitian, so I'm going to promote that, but I think it is so crucial, because having someone that can actually, keep you accountable, guide you through that is so crucial, and someone that you can actually, speak to and, divulge all your thoughts around this, because sometimes you might not feel safe to do it around friends or family, worried about judgment. And I guess then they have their own beliefs and their own, perspective of these things as well. So I think having support from someone who is qualified in this area and that can guide you through that, that was probably one of the biggest things that helped me, because it was actually a place where I could be truly vulnerable and actually, be able to be like, I'm struggling with this. How do I work through it? Like, I need help. I need that guidance. And yeah, really like learning through how can I actually just work on, looking at my body for how it is, as we've kind of spoken about this whole time, and not trying to get to this place of, loving my body. For me, when I kind of understood that as well, that was a key thing that I was like, okay, cool. Like, I actually don't need to get to this place of, body love and being obsessed with my body. It's actually just okay, to just see my body as it is. And I think when I started to, I guess, loosen like that goal of trying to get to this, destination, and just be like, oh, it is a journey, and every day, I'm taking the right directions and steps towards it, was actually when I was able to, move towards that place of, finding that body acceptance, and being okay with my body, the way it is.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love that whole message almost of this podcast, is that it's a journey, it's not a destination. And I couldn't agree with that more, because it is, as you mentioned, you still have your bad days. I know I still have my bad days, and everybody still experiences that. And I wouldn't even say they're bad days. They're just days where you just need to check in a little bit more, and you just need to maybe take those safer options because you just feel like you're just uneasy and not okay, which is fine. It's something that, as we've mentioned, that life is one of those things that continually throws you challenges and continually puts you on this road that's up and down, and you just have to learn to navigate through it. But as long as you just keep going through it. And I want to just thank you so much for sharing all of your story today and everything that you've been through and what you're doing in your practice, and really starting this conversation with me about body image, because it is a big topic and it's something that's getting a lot of light right now in social media, as we've mentioned, which is, as we said, positive and negative. But I think, yeah, as we said, the one thing out of all of it is that you really should have those support networks around you, because this is an ongoing thing that you have to deal with. So thank you so much for bringing light to that conversation and sharing everything today.
Yeah, no, wonderful. And thanks so much for having me on. As I said, I am very passionate about this topic. And I love being able to, help other people through their journey, with their relationship with their body, because I think, as we've said, the society we live in, like, it's very, I guess, normal to experience these concerns around your body and to not feel, happy, and empowered in the body that you're in, because of all these, different factors that play into that. So I think, yeah, if I can, help someone out through, talking about this on a podcast or sharing something on my social media, I guess my job's done.
Amazing. I love that. And where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me over on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Christina's Kitchens. And I have a
There's
website.
some amazing recipes on there, by the way. I'm just
yeah. Yeah, lots of food. So yeah, that's how you can find me. And then, yeah, I've got a website and things like that. But yeah, that's my main kind of things at the moment. And I actually do have some freebies around body image on my page as well, if people want to, get some free resources too.
Amazing. Make sure everybody you go check them out. But yes, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone else out there as well for joining us for another Secret Sunday session. It was a pleasure to start this conversation with you, Christina, and everyone else around body image and eating disorders. I hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you all very soon.